Welcome back to Clear the Mechanism with your host, Coach Ryan Vondracek. Today we have a special one. Not many guests that I've kind of had on thus far I've been able to meet in person. Me and Hector's relationship, as much as it's kind of been a short one, at least in person, it's been something that we've been able to kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And I feel like we're definitely two guys who like to kind of go back and forth with, hey, I see this, or hey, I see that. And so my guest today is we have on Hector Lopez. Hector is the face behind the brand BMGP baseball. Hector, thank you for coming on to Clear the Mechanism.
Oh man, thanks for having me, dude. It was awesome when you reached out. I love that you're doing the podcast. So I definitely had to say yes, especially this will probably be the most time we'll get to talk about everything too. So I'm excited, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So obviously, I kind of know a little bit of your background and things like that, but just kind of tell the audience about your baseball journey, coaching experiences, and then how that's kind of shaped you into kind of what you've been able to build with your brand.
Yeah, man. So I mean, it all started when I was a kid. I feel like that's everyone's thing, right? You know, when we were young, I wanted to play ball. My dream was to play baseball. I just that was it. I had no plan B. It was just play baseball and so my take with it, man, like going back to my youth was I played little league. I didn't know about travel really. So when I played little league, I was the best in the town, right? So that was awesome. You know, I was the best in the neighborhood or whatever. And then I got shell shocked pretty early when I got to high school, and then everybody was good. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I started seeing how the politics kind of work a little bit. I started understanding how some of the travel ball kids were getting preference on the high school team and stuff like that, which I still, worked hard and fought through myself. And I was able to get my starting spots on both my freshman and sophomore year. But then junior year, that's kind of where things took a turn for me. I got hurt and I dislocated my disc in my lumbar spine. So that was a big hit, man. And my parents are first time immigrants here. So when they went to the doctor and the doctor tells them what's going on, they're like, "Oh, you're done playing." And I was just like smacked in the face. And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, yeah, you can't play. The doctor says no. And man, that was a rough time for me. You know, you were going from one day playing the game you love every single day to being told you're done. And it was a bit of a shell shock for me, man. You know, life happened. I had my kids, all that stuff. And then throughout that time, I ended up finding out that I could have kept playing still. There was issues with the doctor, not just from us, but from other people. So later on, we found out, like, he did a lot of he got sued for malpractice, actually, not from us, but from just other people, and it was a weird moment, but for me, I kinda thought it was too late now. So, that was that, man. I kind of accepted my fate and just moved on, but it was a bit of a rough time. I literally, like, left the game completely. So I had my family. I wasn't too focused on anything else besides just working, getting through it with my family till my boys started getting into the years of playing baseball, man. So that's kind of when things took a turn. You know, I had my two older boys and I did the classic dad thing where you teach them what you were taught, the squish the bug and hands up, all this stuff, man. And it was really weird for me because it's like they weren't understanding it. It wasn't translating, and then I will say that I believe I may have ruined the game for them too, my older boys, because of being that little league coach dad that's just yelling and stuff like that without understanding why it's not working. So fast forward to that, man. That's kind of what got when I had my younger son, the one the one that was ABCA. When I saw him do what he was doing, and I'm like, it just comes natural to him, right? I'm like, oh, you start understanding all this stuff, and that's just natural. And then you're wondering why. So, my older son, I was trying to get him to move like my younger one, and it wouldn't work. It was really weird. And I'm like, you get the classic, oh, well, you don't got it, he's got it, blah, blah, blah. And man, that's kind of where everything took a turn. That's when I landed on 108. And that's where like my mind exploded. I began trying to do more research into things, and the whole BMGP thing started because of that. BMGP is are the initials to my kids' nicknames. So every initial in there is just every letter is one of their initials for their nicknames, right? So my page just started off as a I had my own Instagram page, but I ended up making another one as sort of a diary for their like drills that I would do with them just so I'd have something to go back and look to. And then all I did was follow baseball stuff on that page. That was it, nothing else. It was like my like place to go for all baseball stuff, man. And yeah, man, that's how the page started off. And I put up one video of him, man, and it like spread like wildfire. And it was insane, man. I think in less than 4 months, I had like 10K followers. So that's kind of where that journey started. And then I got to a point where I was like, man, if so many people are following, I have to make sure that I'm posting the right stuff, you know? And yeah, that's where the whole page started. That's how it came to be. And it's funny because if you look at the first videos to where it is now, it's where you've really seen the growth that we've had. So that's kind of where everything began. But my journey kind of ended early. So when I got into this, man, I was like, I basically did it, and I'm doing it to help prevent from someone else, or to help prevent someone else going through what I went through. That's literally the biggest thing. Like, there's still people that are misinformed on what's going on. Guys being told no, maybe a little too early, and there's no one else to really fight for them and tell them that they could still keep going. So that's kind of been my journey behind this, man. Like telling everybody that you can do this, and I am trying to do whatever I can to help you to take it as far as you want to take it.
I think that's the beauty of it too, is like there are so many different things out there, right? But it's dependent on not only how we coach, but like how we're able to kind of describe those things that we're trying to tell not only that athlete, but each and every athlete's kind of different. From a traditional baseball sense, what do you feel like kind of that gap is from the instruction piece, but at the same time, like, is it something where you feel like they're getting told the wrong information, or is it something that maybe people just don't understand the importance of cues? Kind of how do you feel like that's kind of been able to be seen in your program?
I think it's a little everything, man. The biggest thing that I found when I work with kids that have been doing lessons or have been playing for a bit, you end up doing more uncoaching than actual coaching, right? Everyone knows the mechanics. Everyone knows what's supposed to happen. They have the cues, but no one knows how to actually make them happen. So that's I think the biggest gap is we have coaches telling kids to do certain things, but not how to do them. The best way I describe it to kids is I'm like, okay, listen, you all know this is what I used to always use, and I still use it now, man. Like, I'll have my kids in here, the ones I train, and I'm like, all right, you all know how to get home. Yeah, I know how to get home. I know how to get home from here. Yes. Okay. Here's my car. Go home. And they're like, well, we don't know how to drive. I'm like, exactly that. You get a coach telling you do this. Well, I don't know how to do that. So then they're like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, just because you know what it's supposed to be or how it's supposed to look like, you might not know how to actually get there. And that's what I think has been the biggest problem in the game right now is everyone sees the videos, they see what it's supposed to look like, but they can't tell you how to actually do that.
I think that's the beauty of kind of how you go about your teachings and how you're able to kind of see those in the videos and things like that. As you kind of said, 108 sticks out to you on kind of based off of not only their interpretations of how we actually supposed to move, but kind of the difference between those different types of movers. And so with that kind of being said, was there a particular athlete or breakthrough within kind of maybe a cue that you gave a kid where it's like, okay, that will always be remembered in the back of my mind?
Man, there's been a lot. I think my biggest breakthrough was when I understood like what actually meant what reciprocal rotation what actually was like in an athlete. Understanding how that affects the swing and stuff like that. I saw a couple of videos. There's a video I saw one time of that this one is like the one I use a lot is of Austin Riley, man. It was just a regular video of him. He had like a I think he had a line drive past a shortstop. And he's hitting and he does what every kid does in little league. He steps out of the box during his swing, but when his foot lands, his back foot kicks back so far and he ends up in a closed position and just smacks the ball, man. And I was like, so for everyone that talks about the rotating the back foot, I bring up that video and then everyone's like, whoa, like I've never seen that. And the thing is, like, we've seen people like Frank Thomas, man, that used to just literally swing off of one leg, but no one ever paid attention to that. You know, everyone was just so caught up on the squish the bug thing and this and that, that everyone's been teaching drive the back leg and drive the back knee when that never actually happens. Another video that really got to me was that one was I actually sent that into like on the 108 page one time. It was Manny Machado fielding a ball and throwing it from the seat of his pants across to first base. And when he did that, his upper body went this way and his lower half went the opposite way. And I was like, man, that's it. Like that's what they mean by, you know, removing in opposite directions. So those two things were kind of where I take everything and try to mix it into my training somehow, you know, figuring out how to get a kid to anchor the bottom half to get across. But my thing is, listen, in my opinion, man, what's wrong right now with baseball is there like a lot of the stuff that I'm gonna say is from 108, man, but there's no school for baseball. Like you can't go somewhere to learn how to teach it. It's all passed down information. You know, and it kind of sucks, man, because like they'll grade someone or their resume is based on, oh, well, this guy had 4 years of college playing, and now somehow that means they're allowed to go and teach the youth how to play baseball. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really good players out there, or a lot of really good coaches that can translate it. But there's a lot more, in my opinion, that can't. So what I think has been my biggest struggle, but also my biggest benefit is that I don't have that. You know, when people ask me, "Oh, where'd you play?" I stopped playing high school. Well, how do you know? Well, I'm like, well, listen, and I tell every kid and every parent, I don't need you to come in here and believe me. Let me show you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And if after you see what I show you, you still don't want to believe me, then that's on you. You know, like I'm not going to force that to you. But man, when kids come in here, even older players, and I'm showing them video, and then I show them video of themselves, and they're like mind blown. I never knew I did that. Okay, well now you're seeing. So like I have to. I'm on an uphill battle. I have to show them proof, or else they won't believe me. But that's made me better because I get to be able to explain to that, you know, every single time. And dude, after you do that, it's very easy to do this. Not like where it's like, oh my god, I can just fix anybody. But it's gets very easy to explain all this stuff.
I think I think that's the beauty of it too, is like obviously you say 108 sticks out to you on kind of not only how they go about their business, how they're able to kind of describe those certain things from a movement perspective within kind of the 108 family. And we've been able to listen to quite a few of them. You obviously have a better relationship with most of them than I do. But is there someone from a coaching philosophy within the 108 program that really sticks out to you?
Man, dude, they're all great. Like literally, you know, obviously Eugene was the one that I heard first. So what really drove me to make this move was I saw a video on so to kind of backtrack, right? When I might have missed this earlier, but I got back into playing baseball like 5 or 6 years ago. And when I got back into the game, everyone's talking about the hips and the back leg. And "Oh, you're just my cousin played college and he goes, you got to go to the gym and get stronger and get bigger legs and you'll hit bombs. I was hitting the ball, man. I was really good at making contact, line drives. I just wasn't hitting out of the park. And everyone's like, well, with your size, you should be hitting bombs. You got to go to the gym and get bigger legs. So did my whole thing, man. Got into the gym and just got really big. And then the next year came along and I got super slow. And I still wasn't hitting the ball over the fence. And I was like, okay, you know, what's going on? So everyone's like, well, you're not driving your hips and you're not using your legs the right way. And I'll tell you what, man, to be honest with you, I never understood how that would make sense. I never understood how rotating your hips would make your upper body move because in my eyes, it just never made sense. But I'm like, what do I know? I'm just, an average Joe here, and every coach is telling me the opposite. So maybe I'm wrong. So it just, to me, I'm like, that's going to create bat drag because everything's flying open. But I'm like, what do I know? Right? It's not my place to tell. But then I heard Eugene one time on a video on Instagram talking about, he's like, if you think to use with your hips, you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, this is the only person that's ever like agreed with me. So let me keep watching this video. And I was in the gym a lot, man. So I learned how to lift, how to properly lift because of my back problem. I had to really understand how to properly lift and not hurt myself. So I started seeing a lot of breakthroughs that I never thought I could do, like deadlifting 400 pounds with a bad back. I never thought I could do that, So I'm wondering why. Well, he mentioned one time about if you're gonna go to the gym and take a pulley and stack the pulley and you're gonna yank your hips, I'm like, you're gonna mess up your back. He goes, you're gonna, you're gonna mess up your L5. And I'm like, you have to anchor and use your core. So that's literally how he broke it down. And I'm like, that makes sense. So he's been the one that has influenced me the most, man. But then as I've gone through, I've got to meet everybody, man, from Will to Nate to Mac, Tyler, Jacob, all those guys, man. Casey, Adam, like they're all great. Bodie, they're all great people, man. Like they're all on the same page, man. And what's so cool about that place is that when you go in there, they're all different personalities. So they explain to you the same thing in different ways. And that's when I realized that's how you can't say the same thing to everybody in the same way. And that's been the biggest thing with me is the way that they can. So I always use this expression with kids. I'm like, I ask them, what two numbers equal 10? And they'll be like, well, 5 plus 5. And then I start going down, what about 6 plus 4? What about 2 plus 8? And they're like, well, yeah, all those work too. Well, there you go, man. Like, that's how it is. I had to learn how to tell every kid 5 plus 5, 4 plus 6, how to say it to them. Because when you go there, Eugene's, a 5 plus 5, Will's a 6 plus 4. You talk to Jacob, he's a 2 plus 8. So it's all the same thing. They all get the 10, but there's a different way of going about
I think, and I love that you brought up that analogy because that was something that you brought up to me uh, before the 108 kind of breakout room that both of us attended at the ABCA. And I remember you said a really crazy one to me. I think it was 74 minus 64, and that still got to 10, but that's completely outside the box. And so like there's more ways to think about it than even we think. And when we're able to kind of see that from the athlete's perspective and understand that there's a million different ways to do things. I remember one thing that you also said to me in person that was really profound with kind of how I go about my business now at not only the college level, but also for my facility is how many different ways there are to hold the water bag. And based off of how you hold the water bag, that's probably actually how you're able to rotate. But everyone thinks, okay, I'm gonna put it on my shoulders, and that's how I do it. Now we got guys who front carry, we got guys who go around their hips, we got guy one who'll go sideways side saddle. We got one guy who thinks he's a really just a different human being. He'll wear it like a crown and hold it like this, and I'm like, okay, well that's probably not gonna get you the best results, but like that's how his body feels like he needs to move. So like
Yeah.
we give him that opportunity. So with that being said, like you understand a very good background within kind of movement and evaluation. From that, what do you feel like the difference between what you're able to do and what 108's able to do between a regular quote unquote hitting or pitching evaluation?
Man, I think the biggest thing is, and it was awesome because I got to sit into when I was over in Knoxville this past June. I was just gonna go there and be a fly on the wall, and Max like, here, you go flip. I flipped for like 3 hours, and I was just like, I thought it was like half an hour, but man, so much time passed by, I didn't even realize. But it was just I got to see their process, and a lot of their process is, in a way, it's just way more detailed because they have more time. And I try to obviously make it in the little time that I have, man. But I think the biggest thing is when you go to a hitting coach, they're gonna show you how to throw or how to hit, and or a pitching coach on how to pitch, right? When you come to me, I'm gonna have you figure out how you should do that. The way I talk to them, I'm like, think about walking through the house in the dark and I'm guiding you with with a light. I'm like, at the end of the day, you're the one doing it. You're going to remember the process if you're the one doing it. And you have to explore different angles, different drills, so that they can see what's going on. And then, like here, when we have numbers, it's like, okay, if my leg is, if I'm finishing in an open position or a neutral position, I'm hitting the ball 85. But when I go into a closed position, I'm hitting 90. So then at that point, it's not me telling them what to do, it's you figure it out. So like I should probably go close. I'm like, yeah, it's not I'm not telling you that that's the best way of doing it, but you got to make that choice for yourself. And that's been the biggest thing, man, is like I tell them at every eval, at every like when we start, I'm like, I am not here to teach you how to hit a baseball. You know how to do that. Because I put you on a tee, you're gonna hit a ball. I'm here to show you how to be a good hitter. A good hitter knows when they're good, when they're bad, and and what makes them good and how to get it back when it's not there. You know? So it's crazy, man. Like I said, it's just there's so much trial and error, and I think that's the biggest thing that, at least when I was a kid, I was able to figure it out on my own because I didn't have anyone in my ear telling me what to do. Kids nowadays don't have that. They have everybody in their ear, and when they come to me and I'm like, I don't know, figure it out, and they're like, okay, and then they try different things, and then they're like, well, this actually felt better. So why not do what feels better and gives you a better number? And it's just that's I think the biggest thing is just allowing them to fail and succeed on their own, and then them choose what they want to do.
I think that's the beauty of it too, and I know we also definitely had a text chain between this is we can physically see how they're trying to move and how they're trying to interpret what we're trying to say, but we're not able to feel it. So like there might be something that we think is perfect, and we cue it perfect. We understand like that's probably their movement profile. Obviously, we'll get into that a little later. I know both of us have a pretty good understanding on that, but then it's like that feels so weird. But then then that's when we as coaches we need to ask those questions of, does it feel weird because you don't understand, or does it feel weird because of the feeling? And I think that's what you do very well in your program, and what you learned from how 108 goes about their business too. And it goes back to how Nate speaks in those different types of conversations. At least that's what stuck out to me. Eugene speaks very profoundly, and because he uses more studies, Nate uses a lot more trial and error. And so I think that's what I was able to connect with. So with that kind of being said, with understanding those different types of movement profiles, what do you feel like are some certain principles that connect pitching, fielding, and hitting?
I think it's got to be obviously stability and rotation. You gotta be well that and just proprioception, right? Knowing where your body is in space. That's probably the biggest thing. That's what I've seen connects all three, and that's why it's been able to. Man, our guys come in here to hit, and then they'll come back. Man, I'm throwing harder. I'm like, yeah, you're learning how to use the ground to anchor and how to rotate. Now you know where your body is in space at the time of certain movements. Fielding. It's very similar, man. It's just I think the biggest thing is allowing them to just free up. Even with fielding, man, you know how many kids run to a ball, stop to use two hands when it's like, man, you could have just gone one-handed and made that play look so much cleaner or made the play. You know, freedom is a big thing, and just allowing them to understand what their body's doing and what it has to do. I think that was one of my biggest things when I had my boys working together. I had my little one in front and my older one in back, and I'm like, I need you guys to mirror each other. So like one would field the ball, the other one would be behind him, following the route to mimic and imitate that, right? Well, on one of them, my younger son went a complete different route to make the play because it was a slow roller. And my other one went the other way, and he like almost juked himself, and he goes, we did it wrong. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you're supposed to do this. I'm like, that's where the problem lies, where kids think that it's supposed to be done a certain way when I'm like, you can't be thinking when you're doing making a play, when you're trying to hit a ball, when you're trying to throw. You can't think. It needs to just you need to allow yourself to just go.
I think that's the big piece too about you described the idea of proprioception and understanding where you are in space. When you're hitting and when you're pitching, it's all about understanding how to use the space of not only how you naturally move, but also understanding of, okay, on the mound, I'm going to have levers that I'm going to have to use to understand where I am in space. I know a big thing that you talk about and you're very open about it is the idea behind building an engine and kind of how baseball players have that certain type of engine. Within that engine, there's obviously different parts. When you're doing your evaluations, what do you feel like for the most part is the part that kind of needs to be rewired per se?
I think where everything comes from, you know, how to use. I think the biggest thing is the core, especially with my older players. They'll message you the next day, and man, I'm like, my core is on fire, and I'm like, can you imagine that you've never used your core to swing, like properly engaged your core to swing or throw? And they're like, I never thought I had to. Everyone talks about legs and this and that. And I'm like, it's all in the middle, right? And I think the biggest thing right now is, so I again I describe it as and here's another way, right? Like, you're not gonna drive a Ferrari slow. So what's the point of having a Ferrari parked in the driveway if you're gonna just walk around? You don't know how to drive it. You and I'm like, well, I asked him, like, would you? I asked a lot of the players, I'm like, would you buy a Ferrari and just drive it slow? No, I got to go fast. Well, you have to learn how to drive fast before you can go fast, right? And they're like, yeah, okay, it's the same thing here. I'm like, you guys have this really nice swing or this really nice delivery, but it doesn't go fast. It doesn't move with power, with energy, And that's been, I think, the biggest thing is just allowing them to know what that means, how to use their upper half to rotate, and having them understand that it can't move and rotate if you don't have a stable base. So we do a lot of things like, obviously, water bag throws. We do a lot of med ball throws. We use bands to hold, you know, they hold them out in front of them and rotate. And they see the difference when they rotate just with their arms as opposed to with their whole body, how much easier it gets. So it's just having them understand how to swing hard and how to throw hard at an early age so they can learn how to control it later on. Right now, too many people are focused on controlling and controlling the engine when a lot of kids don't know how to use it. So when it comes to that, like I said, it's all in the middle, up here, upper body, and in the middle. That's where, in my opinion, the engine is, and people have to learn how to use that a little more to be able to create power.
I think that's the beauty of it too. And I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it was in the panel that we both attended, but it was almost like forget what the name of the special move is, but the fireball in Naruto and how it comes from how it kind of is from the center and letting everything come through. That's kind of how I think about the kinetic chain, for instance. And everyone thinks, oh yeah, it's a stability piece in the legs. It is, but it's a stability piece in the legs. And I know Nate quizzed me on this and I got it wrong. And I can't believe I got it wrong. Are the feet always turned on or the feet always turned off? Well, if the feet are turned off, then I would fall. And it's such a simple move that we don't even think about it. So this is always engaged, but are we using it as a piece that is engaged already, or is it something that we're trying to figure out? And I think that's something that the water bags gives us that physical feel. And we're also able to hear that audio feedback of, okay, this is louder here. This is where I need to rotate. And then from there, we can figure out, okay, maybe this is my arm slot here. Maybe this is where I need to move here. But it's them asking themselves that question and almost being self organized. And we're not saying too much. We're just saying, okay, why do you think that? Why do you think you feel that way? And I think that's the beauty of it too. And
Yeah,
so,
man.
with
And
that being said, a big oh, go ahead.
oh, no, no, I was gonna say, like, to kind of bounce off on that, like, I've seen videos and I've seen guys that go to 108 and that talk about the legs, and man, a lot of these guys aren't even thinking about the legs. I'm like, that's the thing, is like, you hear big leaguers on, like, a lot of them on, like, MLB Network or whatever, and they're like, oh, I don't really think about the legs too much, which there are guys that do, right? But the way I describe it is, I'm like, when you go and you sit on a metal chair or aluminum chair, and I'll ask them, I'm like, did you think about sitting down? They're like, well, no, I just sat down because you know that chair is going to hold you up. You trust that chair. I'm like, but now when you go to a party at a lawn party, whatever, and you got those plastic chairs, do you just sit down? No, you're more conscious. You're like, okay, let me make sure it's not going to sink in the sand or I'm sorry, in the dirt. So I'm like, there's a difference. I'm like, you have to think like you're sitting on a metal chair. So when you rotate and swing, your legs know what to do. They're going to hold you. The problem is a lot of players don't trust their legs to hold them up. I'm like, we've all been on swings, those, crappy old swings that have the chains creaky, the base is bad. I'm like, are you comfortable on that? Well, no. I'm like, but you go to a brand new park, you're gonna do a whole 360 around the thing because you know it's not gonna go anywhere. That's the thing. That's another way I talk about it to kids. I'm like, your base has to be in the ground so your swing can actually move. Like, so it's just things like that, finding different ways of saying the same thing.
And I think that's the beauty of hitting a baseball and being able to throw a baseball. It's like the principles are the same, but it's how are we going to be able to get to those same types of ideas based off of the movement profile that you need to use to be the best version of yourself. And so, with that being said, I think a big piece of that is counter rotation and kind of stressing that idea without forcing that down someone's throat. How do you feel like that has best been kind of achieved within your program without kind of stressing that idea behind that?
A lot of the times, man, the way I talk about counter rotation is one, obviously, we use the bags. You know, uh, Sometimes guys make a louder sound of the bag when they counter rotate than actually rotate. So then it's like, and it's quieter going this way. But honestly, the best way that I've seen is just doing things that don't involve a bat and a ball, right? Because a lot of the moves show up naturally when you give a medicine ball and they got to chuck it. So then you go back and show a video and they're like, oh man, I'm like really like getting into my backside a little more when I do that. The best way I explain to kids, it's funny because a lot of them like look at you like you're crazy, but I'm like, all right, dude. I'm like, if I were to punch you, right? I'm like, do you prefer to get punched like from right here and then I do this? I'm like, or do you want to get punched like this? And then that's how you know the ones that are actually paying attention. Because I'm gonna be like, well, I'd rather get punched like this. I'm like, you rather me punch you like this? He goes, no, 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 wait, wait, no, no, from right here. Why? Well, because you're not gonna punch as hard if you just punch from right here. And they're like, if you go back here, you're gonna like put more into it. I'm like, okay, well, right now when you're hitting, you're punching from right here. They're like, oh. So now they just go back in the box and then they start to feel that punch part, and that happens by itself. It's just, the counter rotation part happens almost by itself. It's just finding ways of saying it. Man, like speaking up on that too, it's like one of my favorite evals that I had was with this little dude that came in. He was 9 years old last year. First time playing baseball. Like, I gotta send you his swings. Me and the dad always talk about it. He was like at the local like arcade batting cages, and this swing looked crazy bad, but the kids never played. Dude, 3 months later, the swing was insane. And he came in the first day, and I was like, man, after he was done, I'm like, this is gonna be a hard one for me. And the dad's like, yeah, yeah, we got boxing class afterwards. And I was like, wait, what? He goes, yeah, he's a boxer. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, why? I'm like, dude, you should have told me. Man, probably would have came to, at first, but I'm like, okay, next time, I'm like, watch. Dude, the next time, all we did was I threw a water bag on his back and we did a bunch of punching exercises, like boxing workouts. He's sitting there jabbing and jabbing. I'm all right, dude. Here's a bat. And I throw the bat and I'm like, pretend you're going to punch, uppercut the ball. Dude, the swing cleaned up like that. I was like, whoa. It's been one of my most favorites ever because I literally, we taught him how to swing a bat through boxing, just translating the feel of boxing into the movement. And that was it.
It's crazy how we're able to associate different types of sports or different types of activities and to be able to kind of really not even hone into the physical aspects, but also the mental aspects of like, I know us at the college, we have a lot of guys who like to go hunting. So I go, what is your mental thought process right before you're about to shoot? I know you take a deep breath. And then then I'm like, so do you take a deep breath on the mound? He's like, you know what, coach? I never thought of that. And I said, yeah, everything is connected. But there's a lot of people who don't teach that anymore because it's one of those things where it's like, I don't get how that could be a connection. And then, but if we're able to take a step back, and when we do enough research and able to see, okay, this is why this happened. Like, everything is a process. So how do we get to that process? But how are we able to put that process in terms of that they're going to understand it? So is it multiple? Is it different sports? Is it different types of activities outside of sports? Is it, oh, I really like this movie character and how is his mental perspective? Like, I've had a lot of success with Super Mario Brother references, and I don't know how, but it's like something about Mario just connects with everybody.
You
Everyone loves Mario,
ever you ever watch Dragon
or
Ball Z?
not too much.
There's there's one thing that I used to connect to a lot of the kids that watch that. There's this scene, well, there's this whole level called, I think it's called Autonomous Ultra Instinct, right? And the whole purpose, there's a really cool description, and I'll send it to you, remind me, of the teacher telling Goku that the reason that the highest level that you can achieve in fighting is allowing your body to just take over, and that's it. They're like, the way he explains it is like martial artists have a hard time because they're trying to plan every single move. They're like, well, even though you try to plan every single move, that slows you down. Thinking slows you down. So I talk about that with them. I'm like, you got to sit there and pretend like, you're not thinking, like, let the body take over during the swing. But it's finding the best way of figuring it out. But you're right, man. Like, that's why I love that quote. How you do anything is how you do everything. So it's like, if you're hunting and you're going to take a deep breath, why not do when you pitch when you're going to hit?
No, I 100% agree. And that's the beauty of it, is when we're able to connect on those different types of perspectives. And there's a lot of things that you do within your program that are, quote unquote, I wouldn't say groundbreaking, but a little bit outside the box. And but it's you understanding your athletes at the core ideas. And I think that's the beauty of it, and how you go about your coaching and things like that. So with that being said, you're really big into not only 108 performance, but also baseball flows and kind of the idea behind the slide MVP. With bringing that all together, if we're bringing that in a melting pot, what do you think those three organizations do very, very well for youth athletes?
So I actually just got connected with a slide MVP Matt when I went to. I hadn't really heard much about him, but the dude Dr. Gallo from Baseball Flows hooked me up with a slide MVP Matt, man. But so the thing is, behind 108 and behind Flows, it's movement. The If you want to connect the sliding mat to it, it just it gives you that fear. It takes away the fear of like getting hurt while you're trying to move. So the best way I can describe it is you're introducing new movements to the body, right? The baseball flows things, I love it because, and again, a lot of people, it just depends on how you see it, right? Here's my thing, like, you can't marry everything, right? But I have seen, man, a lot of kids that just naturally do those movements. And I've seen kids that can't do the movements, and we start doing baseball flow stuff, and then it just comes up on the field. Right. So the sliding mat thing is we with the sliding MVP mat we use is just to do like those sliding like on the knee plays and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's trying to teach the body the movement. And then when it comes down to it, don't think about it. Right. I think that doing some sort of flows work is huge for everyone. Spending a lot of my time on the fields, with my son, I see a lot of kids that can make the play. Well, they'll make the play as far as catching the ball, but then they can't throw the ball. So they'll slide and then they get stuck on their knee. They'll slide and get stuck on the floor in a push up position. Or then they don't know how to get up and throw the ball. And you're like, you almost had it. But when you teach these kids how to move, and I tell them, like, well, should we be thinking about this? I'm like, no. It's crazy because they don't understand. I'm like, we do stuff in here. When you get to the field, turn it off. Don't think about it. Your body will take over and do it on its own. The thing is, a lot of the times, and again, I haven't studied much into it, but it just seems like when there's a lot of kids that don't know their range. So I think allowing them to explore their range with the MVP mat, how far can you actually slide? And now a lot of these kids are on turf, so it's almost the same thing, right? So now you're able to see more kids taking that sliding knee dive and popping up and throwing the ball. So it's just introduction of movement and then allowing it to just show up by itself. And the baseball flow stuff has been great because there's so many levels to it. Like it's so open and free. Like I've made my own drills out of baseball flow stuff that certain kids like, so we go into that. It's just there's so much freedom in all of it.
No, I truly think that's the beauty of it is how kids are able to kind of self-organize once that clicks and those different types of things happen. But I think the beauty of, and I know this is a pillar of kind of what me and you talked about beforehand too, was he's actually going to be on the podcast in I think about 2 weeks. Matt from Motor Preference,
Oh, really?
and so yeah, so I'm excited to talk to Matt a little deeper,
That's awesome.
and so for the people who don't understand, I understand mostly, but there's definitely some perspectives to it. To the best of your knowledge, kind of give the difference between when you're working with a terrestrial athlete versus when you're working with an aerial athlete.
I think that I mean, especially like, cause I tried asking Matt one time too, like, how is that in kids? And I guess he said that it's something more that you kind of develop as they get older. It's hard, I guess, test in kids, but you definitely see signs of some stuff, right? And once I got into that, really started to like understand a little more on some of the kids, and then so you start seeing some of those similarities, in what they say. Because I do work with mostly younger players, so you still want to take that into consideration. But I think once you understand what that means, you'll start to allow certain kids to do things, differently. So when you understand what a terrestrial is, you'll know that they like to use the ground a little more, right? So a lot of anchored work will work for them. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't work for terrestrials. It's just you want to allow them that freedom of getting out of the ground because their grounded is going to look different from a terrestrial's grounded, if that makes sense. You know, their job is to get in and out quick. So from my understanding that what I've seen with that, it's like they're the kids that are going to have their foot in the ground at contact and it's going to leave right away. So with them, you really want to specify like, okay, maybe stay out of the ground, but for that little bit of moment, you want to make sure that you're at strike or at contact, you're holding the ground really well and then release everything. While there's other guys that are more on the terrestrial side that are going to they're going to really want to get into the ground a little bit lower and use the ground a little more to hold on to finish the rotation. But it's the whole motor preference thing's been awesome, man. Like one of my favorite to use is like the supinated prone on the hands to help some of them with their finish and stuff like that. Understanding like the motor shoulders, it was really cool. And I talked to one of the guys about that, where I had a little dude, man. He was swinging, and let's pretend I'm on the camera here, and I tell him I'm like, hey, I need you to rotate to this light bulb here, and it's this one. Like, let's just say it's this one, and he goes this one here, and he rotates the opposite way, and I was like, dude, I'm like, he could have easily been like right here. So when I saw him do that, I was like, it was more comfortable for him to rotate the longer way than it was to just go this way. So with him, man, I closed him off a little more and just kind of like allowed this to happen, and it just clicked. So it's there, and again, I don't have a crazy understanding of it. I've been trying to, so I understand some parts of it, but I definitely it's something I want to dig deeper into. But just like everything, it's like you can't marry everything, right? You have to get an understanding of it and figure out how that works with your players.
The thing that we've had really good success with at the college level is with our terrestrial guys, we go a lot more med ball heavy. just because it is a stability piece of them understanding the ground a little deeper. So we more prioritize that side of things just because in my opinion, how I look at it is terrestrial is more power driven and aerial is more kind of fast twitch. And so we go more water bags with those types of guys. We have them do both, but we prioritize their movements from one versus the other. And then once they're able to do both in that given week, it's like, okay, this cleaned this up from this perspective, but this felt weird here. So it's like, okay, so then you're probably this, or like, hey, this is where you might be here. And I know a big thing for us too is I'm really big on the armored heat myself. I did it when I was a player. That recovery is I think it's up there with some of the best and we've been able to try a lot of different ones. And so what I was able to do with not only kind of what I learned through them and things like that, but I have a packet of 160 different arm exercises. And so it's broken down into the specific parts of the body and it's broken down into 0 to 30 minute intervals. This is what we're supposed to be doing after we throw, 2 to 6 hour intervals, and then 24-hour intervals. And then from there, I let all of our athletes go through. And if they like it, they put a smiley face by it. If they don't, they have a Sharpie and they cross it out. And then so anything they cross out is based off of a feel thing. So it's like they're making their own program, but it's things that I've suggested. But in a way, it's like a kind of a la carte menu where it's like, oh, I really like this. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I really like this. This I don't like at all. So it's like
Yeah.
they're building their own program, but it's through things that maybe not only from a feel perspective, but if it's something they cross out where I'm like, oh, okay, maybe we tweak this slightly and then you feel it differently in this way based off of the type of mover they are. So it's different types of things like that. And I think we've done really well from understanding our athletes from that perspective. And obviously we're gonna keep diving into it because I think it's incredibly important.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's one of those things where it's like any type of information in any of those little buckets is awesome. But as you kind of said, it's within margin and it's within how is that going to work for my program and how is that going to work for that athlete. So
Yeah, no,
so
it's
a
been really
big
cool, man.
thing.
Like
Oh, go ahead.
seeing how like some of these moves transfer, like, like you said, a lot of terrestrials prefer the heavier stuff, a little more grounded, and then you got your aerials that are more like on the plyometric side. And you could see it from a younger age, like some of the kids that are really bouncier sometimes, and they're the ones that are flying off sooner and stuff like that too. So it's just I think that's my thing too, like you said earlier about Nate, like just from being in the trenches for so much, man, you see kids move differently and you're like, okay, so you start to understand, okay, that kid's never gonna move like this. So how do we get him to execute the same move within his movement profile?
And within that type of 108 model, I know a big thing that completely surprised me. And I did it in my own career, but I never thought about implementing it as a coach. Throw and swing with anything and everything. I know Eugene's huge on breaking stuff. I don't know what his infatuation is with breaking things, but how do you feel like those different types of implements from a throwing and hitting perspective have really helped your athletes kind of understand kind of that proprioception feeling with understanding where they are in space, but at the same time, maybe something's clicking from a mechanical side of things too.
I think it's a mental thing, personally, right? Because, dude, I'll have a kid swing a PVC, I'll have a kid swing a wiffle ball bat, anything, right? Just different things. And then you put a bat in their hands, and then it just changes. Like, it's time to get serious. Now I have a bat in my hands, and it's like, no, no, dude, like, stop that. Like, I had a kid one time. We were doing a bunch of throwing workouts. He was looking really good. We threw football, we threw wiffle balls, we threw light balls, heavy, all that stuff, man. Just different kind of implements. We threw like a dodgeball type thing. Everything looked real clean. You put him on the mound with the ball, and it just like changes him. What are you doing? He goes, "Well, I'm trying to pitch. My pitching coach said I have to pitch like this." And I was like, I look at the dad, and I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, we're probably not gonna go back there again." I was like, I'm just again, and it wasn't like it wasn't me saying like, "Hey, don't take him there," but I was like, "You see the difference here?" I was like, "We're teaching kids how to pitch before they know how to throw." Like he just threw really, really well, everything else. The dad was like, "Man, he looks so good," and then he went to go pitch, and it was the complete opposite. And that's one thing that I have appreciation for the space that I'm in. A lot of players, and I talk a lot about this. I'm like, you guys judge your moves based on where the ball goes. I was like, but how many kids have said, "Hey," how many parents have said and kids have heard, "That was a great swing, but you missed the ball." Every kid's like, "Yeah, I hear it all the time." And I'm like, "Well, do you think it was a good swing?" They're like, "Well, no, I missed it." I was like, "Well," I'm like, "Guess what? That was probably one of the best things you've ever taken. You just missed the ball. You don't got to change anything except where you're looking to hit." I'm like, "How many times have you taken bad swings and crushed the ball?" Like, "Well, a lot." I'm like, "Yeah." So that doesn't make it a good swing. You just put the bat on the ball. So that's why I like in here, because they can't judge how far it goes. And the thing is, like, I try to use different implements to allow them to move according to what the implement is. At the end of the day, it's all the same thing, whether you're rotating a bag or rotating a med ball or whatever it is. You have bands around your body and you're moving. It's still rotation, but why does it change when the bat comes in your hands? Some of the best swings are when the kids pick up the Christmas wrapping, paper and they take a hack and it looks good. And then they get a bat in their hands and now it looks really awkward. And I'm like, I think the different implements just allow them to, what they'll do is, like, let's just say this, right? You use five implements and you just move the same way with all five implements and you put a bat in your hands and now it feels weird. And it's like, okay, well, do you think it's the bat that messed it all up, or everything else was just right? And they're like, "Oh, well, I just gotta swing the way I gotta move the way I was moving before." And once you can get that to happen, I think that's a big breakthrough, and the importance of using different implements.
I wrote something down while you were saying that, and I think that's something that I think it kind of clicked in my head that that might have been something Eugene said at the speech. But implements allow freedom. I know he was huge on, I believe it was Jock's father said that they were huge on self toss and being able to kind of use that as a main implement. And I thought Eugene was going to fall out of his seat when he heard that. And so it's one of those things where it's like, as you kind of said, nothing is quote unquote new information. It's probably been around in some way, shape, or form a while ago, other than the idea of really honing in on, this is my movement pattern. This is how I need to let them move. It's not as cookie cutter as it used to be. And so, with that kind of being said, how do you individualize development within your program? If it's from kind of getting to know their families, if it's getting to know the reason behind why they feel like they must move that way, what have you had the most success with in that perspective?
I mean, I've been fortunate to tell every kid that I work with to do a eval. The eval it consists of a lot of little things, man, but the most important thing is getting to know who they are. Like, I talk to the parents. I tell every parent that they have to be present for the eval so they can see what we're doing. And just getting to talk to them. Some kids are really shy, some kids are more outspoken, even down from me asking them, like, what two numbers equal 10, man? Like, I had a kid one time that was like, "Oh, 7 plus 3." And I was like, "Hmm, no one's ever said that to me." So I already know, like, okay, he's thinking things in a different way. And it wasn't even like he tried to think about saying something different. He spat out like 7 plus 3. And I'm like, okay. So just, how kids understand things is a big thing. Once you get to know how they move and you talk to them about how they move, that's when I started actually, like, even Will was like, "Hey man, you gotta just start doing group stuff. That's gonna be a better off for you." And I'm like, man, I'm like, I seen so much bad group stuff where, like, a lot of kids are just one more rep, or you got 10 kids at shortstop waiting for a ground ball and you get 3 reps. Like, what are you doing between those other, reps while other kids are going? So what I see in here, it's like a water bag, for the most part, you're gonna get something out of it. All right. Now, when we'll do stations and stuff like that, I make sure that the kids know and that I'm looking to see, okay, if that's a kid that needs to be at a shorter stride length when he's anchored, I got to make sure he's not too wide. He knows it, but also double check. So a lot of my players, man, even though they're young, they are very aware of what they do. So I can trust them. And again, we're in a very small space. So I can trust them to do what they need to do. And by giving them the water bags, the med balls, they still have the freedom to really express themselves and move and rotate. So, you know, just not and I really talk about this. I'm like, listen, guys, if I give someone a cue, don't think that I'm trying to correct you also. So I'm like, you guys are all different. So it might work for you and you can listen to the cue and see how you take it. But I'm like, if I'm telling you, hey, you gotta stride further, that doesn't mean that you all gotta stride further. It just means him in general. And dude, it's been really cool because again, I have my hitting groups of my like 9 to 11 year olds, and I like them to keep all doing something while we're doing stuff, but I do stop and have them sit down and watch the guy hit. And then I have them input things. So now they're involved and they're like, hey, try doing this. Or hey, you're flying open. Think about landing on the number two and see what happens. And man, when the parents are in here watching that, they're like, whoa. And I'm like, yes, dude. I'm like, that's the whole purpose of this. When you know they're understanding and they're getting, they know how to make it translate. So they're working together in the group for each other, and it's not just individualized. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely it does. And I think at the end of the day is how I look at coaching is especially kind of at the college level. What we're doing is we have a master degree in baseball. That's really all it is. And from that perspective of that, we cannot have a master's degree in baseball if we do not have a master's degree in relationships. I know we've talked about it a little in the past, but there's a lot of important relationships in our life, and I think a pillar for each of us is kind of our faith. So, and from how you kind of go about your business, what do you feel like some of the most important things with your relationship with our Lord and Savior?
Man, you know, so I grew up going to Catholic school when I was up until I was third grade. It was a private school, so we would do mass and all that stuff. I was definitely a lot closer to God during that time, right? I was younger, but something, and we're Mexican, man, so we're very religious and stuff like that too. So a lot of the stuff that we do, I mean, down to us wearing our scapulary and stuff like that, like we're always our saints and stuff like that. So I've always been, I want to say, close, and baseball kept me even closer. So when I got hurt, I kind of like left everything with baseball, and I think I got away from God also. And that was kind of, it was just kind of something that I went through, and I kind of felt like, man, like I was supposed to play baseball and I got hurt. Like, I felt like something didn't work out for me and things like that. Obviously, you get older, you start to understand things. And like I always thought my thing, I prayed for God to allow me to play baseball, man. And it's funny enough, we went to 108 the first year for the Bridge the Gap, and they brought out a preacher, and he was talking about. I have it written down somewhere exactly what verse it was, but basically the gist was, if God has a path for you and it's meant to be your path, even if you veer off, it's gonna find you again. And if it's not meant to be, no matter how hard you try to be on that path, it's gonna take God's gonna take you away from it to put you on the right path. And man, that struck with me so much because the way I see it now, and this is just my belief of it, right? He brought me back in the path to baseball, but for a greater good, right? Like maybe in his work, in his eyes, it's if and this is the way I see it now. I'm like, if I would have succeeded and made play in the big leagues, that would have been for me. I'm like, but now I have the chance to help so many more kids, and it's no longer just for me. So that's my responsibility, and that I feel like now, right? And then with my son, maybe that's another thing I see. It's like maybe it wasn't meant for me; it was meant for my son. And God willing, we're gonna do whatever we can to help him get up there. But like, I definitely am closer to God now again, and just seeing those things, I mean, down from the business, man, I've let everything in his hands and it's taken me where I am now, you know? But definitely that though is just understanding that, you know, and I think it might have been Bodie out at 108 that he goes, "Hey man, you're doing God's work." And that struck with me big too, you know, because we're trying to help the youth right now in a time where it's kind of confusing for a lot of them. We're trying to help create young men. And I think that's kind of the responsibility I have now, and that's the way I see it, you know. And I do what I can to be better and to help these kids be better every day.
That really makes me reflect on. I know when we met each other at the ABCA, I was very open and vulnerable about kind of where I was with not only my relationship with God at the time, but also me and my ex were in that separation period, and I kind of explained that to you, where I was like, okay, I feel like God's telling me something that I need to keep holding on to it. And then we kind of went through both of our stories, and you said if it's meant to be, things will eventually come back and be very fruitful. And so I don't know if I ever told you, we're back together. We've been back together for a couple months now after that 8 month hiatus. And it was one of those things where if it was meant to be, it would come back. And I think there was a lot that I needed to learn about myself, but also a lot of the opportunities that I've had as a coach. I told myself I would never go back and coach for Crown. I said it multiple times after I was done playing. I said, I don't know if that's my path. And then when we were separated, I kind of had this opportunity and took it. And it's been able to kind of open up a lot of doors. And now between me and her and where we're in that type of situation, I think we're a couple years from some really big decisions, and I'm
It's
excited
awesome,
to
man.
kind of see where those go. But at the same time, it's they're becoming kind of open to us because of one, us never giving up. Yes, we might have strayed from each other, but there was a bigger plan that neither of us understood. Probably both of us had to grow. I've been very open and honest with you. After my college career ended, I had an opportunity to go play overseas. And I remember, I think both of us, we were close to both getting emotional over it, was because both of us had opportunities to do other things. And we both decided for the greater good of other people that baseball was our calling, but it was just in a different way. And so I think that's a real testament to kind of how you go about your business, but just the type of person you are and kind of how you would like to leave that type of impact, not only in the game of baseball, but in the world in general. And I know it's something that I brought up multiple times, and it's probably a pillar of this podcast as well, is I truly believe with every bone in my being, as a college coach or wherever I end up as a head coach, I'll have over 500 wins in my career. I believe that with every bone in my body. But the things that keep me going is I want to attend over 350 of my players' weddings. I want to have a very fruitful relationship with my wife, and not let the game overshadow the true beauty of our relationship that God has created for us. Incredibly healthy kids that I'm able to watch flourish in whatever they decide to do, and touch over 10,000 people's minds in some way, shape, or form through this platform of baseball, and let that lean into their life and the next generation's lives once something is not able to, because obviously we pass on. So if I'm able to do those and kind of go about my business through those four pillars, and then have that opportunity to have that fifth one with the 500 wins, like that's a fulfilling life because I'm giving back and it's bigger than myself.
100%, man. Yeah. That's awesome, man. And I wish you the best on all those things, man. And it's just stuff that you're trying to go for other people, you know? And I think that's the biggest thing. Once you start doing that for others, it's just mm, everything else happens by itself, man. It's letting go, I think, is the biggest thing, you know? Like that was a big thing for me, man. Like when I let go of my job, I was kind of like, well, I'm gonna, you know, we were blessed with another baby back, you know, a year and some now. And I was like, well, this is it. I'm gonna stop working and we're gonna do what we can and hope for the best. And man, every day I wake up and thank God for putting me where I am right now. It's scary at times, and it was scary, and I took that jump, and it's been a blessing. And I say every day, it's been a blessing to do what I do. Just from the aspect, man, of like how much time I get to spend with my family is insane.
I think that's the big thing, and that's probably the only thing that I know is going to be tough on me is from a family perspective. Being a college coach is not easy on the family, but I know that God's led me in this direction for a reason. So I'm kind of just a lot of people would just dip a toe in, but I think it's one of those things. If we don't get submerged in that opportunity that God's given us, there's something that we're gonna miss. And so, with that being said, and kind of where this has led us, I know you have big things that you'd like to do and and be able to impact in so many different ways with your brand. Within the parameters of that, let's say 5 years, what do you hope BMGP turns into for you and your family?
I don't know, man. I mean, obviously, it's funny the when you talk about 5 years, a lot of my little dudes that I work with are like 10, 11, 9. And I keep telling every parent, I'm like, I can't wait for 5 years from now. I'm honestly more concerned and more happy and just excited to see where those kids. I have my core of like kids that I work with that I've had for a year now or two. And like, man, I'm excited to go watch their high school games in 5 years. I'll tell you that for sure. For me, I just hope we keep being blessed with more opportunities to help more players at a larger scale. That's that's the goal here. If we can take this and keep helping people and keep helping players and families to grow in the game and just even, man, I've been blessed to help parents with their relationship with their kids to be able to connect because of I've gotten parents that tell me, man, I didn't even know that my kid was into that, or he said those things or things like that because I try to get them out of them. So I hope we have a bigger platform to be able to spread that and to talk about it. And if I can be blessed with a facility one day, cool. If not, it'll happen when it's gonna happen.
No, that's incredible. Is there anything that we kind of left off that you'd love to kind of touch on for you and your program before we kind of
No, and the
let
only
this one?
message that I like to say, if I can, man, is just like for the youth. You know, I think we need to be better about letting the kids just play and stop getting caught up in the whole travel ball thing. You know, uh, the names, ratings, and numbers don't mean anything at this age, and it's so hard to not get caught up into it, right? It's so hard because I think at times we need to stop seeing our kids' development or their skills on the field as our parenting failures or flaws or successes. Like, my kid hitting 5 home runs doesn't make me a better parent. You know, your kid being benched doesn't make you a worse parent. So I think just allowing kids to be kids and enjoy and love the game at an early age. That's the biggest thing I can try to spread out now is just allow kids to fall in love with the game so that when it comes time for the real game to start, they love the process.
No, I absolutely agree. Well, I just want to thank you for kind of hopping on this. I'm hoping it was a good opportunity for not only you to share your brand, but for you to share your story and kind of be able to reflect on those different types of things too. Where it's like, I remember when we were in this situation, and now we're in this situation. And then at the end of the day, it's just how much you're able to kind of give back to your community. Because I know we've had multiple conversations. For you, it's nothing close to I'm doing it for the money. I'm doing it for the love of the game. I'm doing it for to see what that little ball player who's with me from 9 to 13 when they get in high school, to see what type of person they become and are able to use that outlet of baseball. And I think there's many people that are starting to continue to kind of come to the forefront of that, and actually get the recognition that they deserve. And I'm just happy that we were able to kind of share your journey and the importance of what you're doing because it truly is special. So
No, man, I really appreciate the opportunity, man. Like that's why I didn't even think about it twice when you said if I go, come on, man. Again, we've gone through a lot of conversations and stuff like that. I appreciate your input on a lot of stuff, or even just keeping in touch, man. So I hope to keep on doing this for a long time, and I hope your podcast blows up, man. But you're doing great with it, and let's keep taking this as far as it can go.
No, absolutely. So once again, this was clear the mechanism with our guest Hector Lopez. If there's anything that you guys have learned from this, it's the importance of giving your athletes freedom and letting them understand that their movement profiles are probably better than what you're going to give them. And always ask the why, not the what. Anyone can teach the what. The importance is the why, and once we figure out the why, that's when we're going to thrive. So, at the end of the day, everyone be absolutely blessed, and thank y'all for listening.
Thanks for having